Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about juniors talking to seniors, so let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, I am a junior software engineer and I've noticed that I'm silent when I speak about technical stuff with seniors. I think their ideas are the best because they have more experience. What can I do to have more self-confidence to express my opinion? Well, wrap your statements in silk, fluff them up, and present them as open thoughts or opinions rather than statements or things like that. Let me explain that a little bit. So, this is very common. And it's a very normal thing for most people, I would say. I mean, I do this as well when I talk to you because, contrary to popular belief, I don't know all the things about software development, and I certainly don't know a lot about things that are not tech related. There are so many things I'm so ignorant of that it's painful, and usually what happens, at least when I have some thoughts on something that seems a little bit odd or something, but I'm not really an expert, I don't really know, is that I present things in well, in a suggestive, well, not suggestive, that's a bad word, that does not sound right, but I pose things as a suggestion or a thought or a concern or something like that, where I'm not stating that I am right about something. I'm just wondering whether or not this is a perspective that needs to be considered, if that makes sense. Because it puts me in a position where I am communicating that, in this case, the senior software developer, or if it's my doctor or some person who deals with legal matters or whatever, right? That I'm suggesting that I understand I understand what you said, but I'm wondering whether or not A, B, and C are true, and then I am basically allowing them to give me feedback on those thoughts. Because having an opinion could be that you say that someone is wrong, or you can sort of there are many ways to express an opinion, but the thing that you are probably feeling is this intimidation that a lot of people feel from talking to someone who is really knowledgeable about something you're not so knowledgeable about. And when you're in that sort of situation, I mean, the more knowledge you have about the topic, the more direct you can potentially be about some stuff, because you feel secure in that your perspective is a good one. But when you're not so sure, well, then just allow that to be a part of how you express yourself. You can always start by just saying that I'm wondering whether or not A, B, and C is true as well, or I see that we were doing things this way, or I'm noticing that we are making decisions based on this. But I wondered, is there a possibility that this thing here is also true? The way that I'm trying to sort of paraphrase here is so that you sort of understand the the position that I take within the conversation with someone. It's very hard to do this if I don't have another person, but I hope that you can sort of derive what I was trying to do, where I'm trying to formulate my thoughts and my opinion on the topic, but I pose it in the form of a question or a request for clarification to the room, to the person I'm talking to, etc., etc. Which means that I'm not actually in any way putting myself in a position where I'm opening up like a confrontation or something like that. I'm just asking for this person who is more wiser than me to consider the thought that I just have and correct me. I mean, I can even say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm wondering whether or not A, B, and C is the key way to go here. What do you think? Sort of that sort of way of positioning myself. And as a junior software developer, I think that is probably the least taxing thing for you to do, because, as you were saying, it's usually the case that you might go quiet because your opinion is not so well. You don't feel confident in your own experience, and the only way you can sort of get there is to practice. It takes time to get good at software development, or I mean at anything basically, and this is a way for you to practice expressing your opinions in a in a low effort way that doesn't really cause any, should not cause any frictions, because you're not really pushing back on things. You're simply stating your thoughts and opening up for someone to consider them and like give you feedback on whether or not they're right. It's almost like you're not saying something, you're asking for feedback on your own thoughts, which I've found to be a very common thing that a lot of juniors do, and I did it as well. And I mean, I still, as I said, I still do it. I think it's a very good way of communicating with someone who is more experienced. At least that's how I feel. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you're not so confident with yourself and your opinions when you're talking to someone who's more experienced, it's always a good idea, I think, to try to pose your thoughts and opinions in the form of a question or a request for feedback or something like that, because usually it's very, or else you're gonna have to be a very sensitive person or something very extreme for someone to interpret that as a confrontation or something like that. And it's a low effort way for you, or it's not so taxing usually for you to do something like that, and it also gives you the necessary practice you will need, because you're gonna need to express your opinion. And if you don't get into the habit of doing it, it might be that you always stay quiet, or you get intimidated into being one of those people who don't express opinions. And well, it's up to you to see to figure out what type of person you want to be. But it's usually good to get in some practice, because the further along you get and the more confident you get in your own skills, the more often you're going to have a different opinion on things and a different perspective, and before you know it, that senior software engineer, well, maybe sometimes they're not the ones that are the most experienced or the most knowledgeable. Sometimes you have a perspective that is worth considering, and if you don't practice expressing that opinion, it's likely going to become a bad habit, and potentially something that negatively affects your confidence and personality, even outside of the workplace. So it's good for you to get some exposure to quote unquote put yourself out there a little bit and expressing an opinion in a very confronting way, so that you get practice in expressing yourself and the way that you think. Have a great day.